I am 78 years old, and I'm recording this because there is one truth I kept that changed this family forever. It began at Christmas dinner with laughter and a small box passed around the table like a toy. DNA kits. Just for fun, someone said. Everyone acted brave about it. Loud jokes, big smiles, the kind of confidence people borrow when they're afraid. I smiled too. I even praised the idea, like I wasn't watching a fuse burn toward the center of my life. A family isn't held together by love alone. It's held together by a shared story that nobody is allowed to edit. My son tore his kit open immediately. My daughter read the instructions twice, trying to be practical while her hand shook. My oldest, my first, did it quietly, politely, like they were trained to be careful with everything they touch. Control rarely looks like cruelty. Most of the time, it looks like calm and good manners. We ate, we repeated the same safe stories we repeat every year. The burnt pie, the petty old arguments turned into jokes, the claim that our family always bounces back. I sat at the head of the table and watched them keep believing in me. Routine is a powerful sedative. It makes people stop asking why things feel wrong. A week later, the results started arriving. First as emails, then as messages in the family group chat. Excited, teasing, competitive. My grandson wrote, "Let's compare." I saw the first result before anyone else did. That wasn't luck. In this family, information has always been routed through me first. I called it organization. The truth is, I needed to decide what reality would look like before anyone else tried. Secrets survive because someone powerful is willing to be quietly ruthless. When I opened the report, my eyes didn't skim. They locked onto a simple mismatch that refused to match the story we live by. It wasn't a dramatic headline. It was worse. It was clean. My oldest did not fit the line we claimed. I closed the laptop and stared at my hands. I thought about how many years I spent convincing myself that protecting and controlling were the same thing. Love without truth becomes a soft cage. I didn't tell anyone that day. I made soup. I folded napkins. I answered calls like nothing happened. And inside me, a locked door started to shake. My daughter called that night. She tried to sound casual and failed. She said her results looked strange. She asked if I'd done mine. She joked, then went quiet. People can tolerate bad news better than uncertainty. Uncertainty turns them into hunters. I told her it was probably a lab error. I said these companies confuse people all the time. I said she shouldn't upset herself over a novelty gift. I have used the phrase, "don't upset yourself," like a spell. It never fixed anything. It only delayed the reckoning. 2 days later, my son showed up at my door without calling. He didn't do the usual polite entrance routine I trained them all to perform. He held out his phone and said, "Explain this." On his screen was a thread between siblings. Short messages, sharp panic. My oldest had written, "My result doesn't match Dad's line." My daughter wrote, "Mine doesn't either." My son wrote, "Mine does." One match, two mismatches. Enough to split a family into camps. In families, logic rarely leads. Emotion hires logic afterward. My son accused my daughter of being dramatic. My daughter accused my son of being favored. My oldest said almost nothing, which made everyone imagine the worst. My son looked at me like I was supposed to restore order, like I was supposed to name the villain and close the file. I repeated the lab error story. Calm voice, smooth delivery, the same voice I used for decades to end conversations before they got dangerous. A calm liar does more damage than an angry one because calm feels like authority. That evening, my daughter came too. She brought printed pages, highlighted lines, notes in the margins like evidence for a trial. People don't become investigators because they're curious. They become investigators because they feel lied to. She asked to see my results. I told her I hadn't done mine yet. Small lie, neat lie, time-buying lie. Time is what control always asks for when truth is approaching. My oldest arrived last. They hovered in my doorway longer than usual, as if my house required a new kind of permission. Their eyes moved across the room, not like someone looking at family photos, but like someone looking at exhibits. It's unsettling to be observed by the person you raised while they reconsider who you really are. My daughter said the obvious thing out loud. If Dad wasn't the match, then either the tests were wrong or someone lied about parentage. She didn't say the word affair, but it sat in the room like a heavy object no one wanted to touch. I watched my oldest flinch, not from guilt, but from recognition. They had lived their whole life sensing they didn't fit the shape of our family story. Children notice what adults train each other not to notice. My son turned to my oldest and asked, "Did you know?" My oldest shook their head. "I knew something was off," they said. "I didn't know what." That line should have softened everyone. Instead, it sharpened them. When a family is built on roles, the moment one role collapses, everyone panics about what else might be false. My daughter began listing memories like exhibits. The way our father was stiff with my oldest. The way certain relatives made jokes about strong family genes whenever my brother-in-law walked in. The way my oldest was held to the highest expectations and offered the least warmth. My son tried to defend our father, then stopped mid-sentence. Defending a dead man is a strange kind of loneliness. There are two griefs, missing someone and realizing you never knew them. Then my husband's brother called. He didn't call me. He called my son. My son put it on speaker like he wanted witnesses. My brother-in-law sounded offended, not confused. He said the tests were trash. He said people let gadgets poison families. He said we should stop making drama. He spoke like someone trying to smother a fire with empty hands. My daughter asked him one question. "Did you ever suspect anything?" The pause lasted too long. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a decision. He said our family has always been complicated. He said my oldest was always sensitive. He said we should meet in person. After the call, my daughter looked at me in a way she never had before. Not like a daughter needing comfort, like a woman deciding whether her mother is a safe place or the source of the harm. Truth is simple. The lies around it are what make it feel impossible. I tried to pull the room back under my control. I said we were spiraling. I said we were tearing each other apart over a technicality. I told them to eat, to sleep, to stop. I once believed calmness could override reality. It can't. It only delays impact. My daughter didn't sleep. She did what I raised her to do when she felt powerless. She organized. She ordered a second test from another company. She asked my son to take it too. She asked my oldest. My oldest agreed without argument, like someone tired of living in a hallway of questions. My son resisted, then complied, because even favored children want to know if the favor was purchased with someone else's pain. When the second results arrived, there was no maybe. My oldest was not biologically our father's child. That sentence detonated quietly, not because it proved betrayal, but because it rewrote every memory we used to explain our family shape. People fear what the truth will force them to admit about themselves. My daughter cried, quiet, furious tears. She kept repeating, "So you knew." She wasn't looking at my oldest. She was looking at me. My son looked sick, like his body finally understood what his mouth kept denying. My oldest didn't cry. They stared at the floor, and I saw something that made me hate myself. Relief. Sometimes the harshest truth is the first real comfort someone ever receives. My daughter asked me directly if I had ever been with anyone else. She wanted a clean villain, a simple box. I told her no. I said it with the same smooth voice I used to settle fights and shut doors. A lie is easiest to believe when it sounds like the person you trusted. My daughter didn't accept it. She said we needed to speak to my brother-in-law face to face. When we met him, he performed warmth like an actor who learned the lines but missed the meaning. He hugged too hard. He joked too fast. He started telling old stories before anyone asked. Noise is a shield when someone can't afford silence. My daughter placed the test pages on the table and said, "Explain." He scanned them. His face didn't collapse the way an innocent face does. It tightened like a man bracing for a punishment he expected years ago. He didn't confess. He said the same thing I'd said. Unreliable tests, people chasing scandal, families destroyed by shadows. Then my oldest spoke, soft but steady. "If you're sure it's wrong," they said, "swab your cheek." My brother-in-law laughed like the request was insulting. Then he stopped laughing because no one joined him. A boundary becomes real only when it costs someone their comfort. He refused. He said he wouldn't be humiliated. He said we were disrespecting him. He tried to summon my husband's authority like a weapon, saying my husband would be ashamed of us. My son snapped, "You're hiding something." My brother-in-law stood up, chair scraping, and pointed at me. "Ask her," he said. "She likes playing God." That should have made me angry. It didn't. It made me cold, because he was right, and he knew it. My daughter turned toward me slowly, like she was afraid of what she'd see in my face. At home that night, I told myself I could still manage this, that I could redirect, soften, explain, repair. The dangerous belief is that a good explanation can undo a bad truth. My daughter came to my house the next morning and used the spare key I gave her years ago. I gave it to her so she'd feel trusted, even while I kept the important doors locked. She walked straight to the cabinet where I keep old family documents. Not because she knew what she'd find, but because she finally understood where I always stored power. In paper. Paper outlives arguments. She found a folded page tucked inside an old book. Not a love letter, not a confession, a typed agreement with signatures. The kind of document you create when you want a lie to behave like a fact. She held it up with trembling hands. "What is this?" This was the moment I could have denied until I died, or told the truth and lived long enough to watch the consequences. Here is the smaller truth first. My husband could not give me what he wanted most, and it made him feel less than a man. Shame is the fuel that runs entire family histories. He didn't want adoption. He didn't want whispers. He wanted an heir with his last name and a story nobody could question. He wanted the world to see a strong family line, even if it was built on a quiet wound. So he asked me to solve it, and I did. This is where you expect romance or a reckless mistake. It wasn't romance. It wasn't recklessness. It was strategy. The most dangerous decisions are the ones people call necessary. I chose someone close enough to keep the secret stable, someone available, someone who would never risk losing his place in the family by speaking. I chose my husband's brother. Yes, my brother-in-law. And no, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't desire. It was planned, a controlled act designed to produce a child who would protect a reputation. That is the ugliest truth about me. I mistook control for competence. My husband knew. He was not deceived. He was not a victim of an affair. He was a co-author. That reorders everything, doesn't it? Your father wasn't cold to my oldest because he doubted them. He was cold because my oldest reminded him of what he couldn't be. He chose reputation over tenderness, and then punished the child who carried the evidence of his shame. A person can love you and still resent what you represent. My brother-in-law swore he would never claim the child. He swore he would never speak of it. He liked calling it for the family because it made him feel noble. Then I did the part you won't forgive and you shouldn't. I engineered the emotional climate around the secret. I made sure my oldest would never feel fully claimed by anyone, because fully claimed people demand honesty when they're treated unfairly. I made sure my husband remained respected, even if it meant my oldest grew up starving for warmth. I kept my brother-in-law close enough to watch his own child grow up, but never close enough to be suspected. I gave him holidays, roles, a chair at the table, just not the truth. When you use a child to protect adults, You don't create safety. You create lifelong confusion. All these years, you thought my brother-in-law was just loud and nosy and too involved. You misread him the way I trained you to. He wasn't meddling. He was orbiting what he wasn't allowed to name. And my oldest wasn't sensitive. They were living inside a lie that kept rejecting them in invisible ways. After I confessed, my daughter didn't scream. She didn't call me the names I earned. She only said, "So you built us like this on purpose?" Yes. My son kept asking, "Why him?" Like the question could turn into a time machine. Because he was controllable. Because proximity makes lies easier to maintain. Because I knew he would protect the system that gave him status. People don't betray a system when the system is the only thing that makes them feel important. My oldest asked me one question, quieter than all the others. "Did you ever love me like you love the story?" I didn't answer fast enough because the honest answer is complicated and shameful. I loved you, but I loved the structure more. I loved being the one who kept the family together, even when what I was really doing was keeping everyone trapped. A confession doesn't repair damage. It only stops the damage from being invisible. Now the family has rearranged itself into new shapes. My daughter calls rarely, and when she does, her voice sounds like she's holding herself back from collapsing into rage. My son visits, but he watches me the way you watch someone who handled knives in secret. My brother-in-law won't look at any of us, because without his role, he doesn't know who he is. And my oldest is finally angry. Not explosive angry, but clear angry. The kind of anger that belongs to someone who has found solid ground after a lifetime of sliding. Here is the consequence I didn't predict. My grandson, the one who brought the kits for fun, has started asking about everything else we don't talk about. He wants names. He wants reasons. He wants to know what other parts of our story were engineered. That's the problem with truth. Once it enters a house, it doesn't stay in the room you invited it into. Take this. If anything can be taken from a mess like mine, the story that protects a family can also poison it. Love without honesty becomes management, and every secret you keep becomes a bill your children will pay with interest. There is still one sealed envelope on my desk that none of them have seen yet, and when they open it, this will not be the last thing that breaks.